Hello and welcome to Life Challenges, better known as a conversation with Dr. David Clayman. We left you last time talking about anger, and I really thought we were through with that topic until Dr. Clayman came up with anger management. And I've got to tell you, the first thing I thought of is I've got 2 or 3 friends who got sent to anger management by their employer. So that's a thing. Anger management.
Yeah, there is a thing. There's people that specialize in it, and there's a whole bunch of literature on anger management. And it's actually pretty simple, but it's with everything with me, but it's complex. So if we just take a look at anger, it isn't a universal one type thing. That's the first thing. The expression of, well, anger is a kind of reaction to upsetting events of some kind. It can be chronic. It can be acute, it can be predictable, it can be part of your personality, it can be a surprise that you do that.
Politics.
Yeah. So when people are sent to anger management, it's because their reaction or their anger expression causes distress in the environment around them. And people that are sent to anger management are sent, they don't wake up one morning and say, I'm a whatever, and I think I need anger management. I have not had anybody proactively come into me and say, hi, I want to do anger management.
I was going to ask you if anybody ever volunteered to.
Not, and as one who had an anger problem, I had a really bad temper. And if people are willing to do anger management, the first thing is you have to be willing to admit that you can be a butt, okay? And that there are healthy ways to express anger. And that's one of the things we teach, of how to let people know you're distressed and that something's bothering you. There are other things about identifying that you may become more susceptible to anger when you've not had enough sleep, when you have a buildup of pressures, when you feel like you're going to be out of control. Being out of control is one of the things that prompts anger. Road rage. When people get surprised, when they feel they're out of control on the road, when they feel like they're disrespected or anything else. And all of a sudden that burst comes out, and that may be just people that are all sweethearts in other situations, but the other part of that is that in certain situations people are more comfortable being angry if they're anonymous, online.
Oh yeah, good point.
In a car. I was coming up Corridor G, for those of you who were in Charleston, and I watched a big Jeep almost hit a smaller SUV. And the smaller SUV guy, I thought he was going to go back and clip the big Jeep and go after him. And he just passed him. I'm surprised he probably made a profane thing. So first you've got to kind of define what anger is. Screaming, profanity, throwing things. You can think of all of those kind of things. And I've spent a good part of my early career here in Charleston at behavioral medicine at WVU as a faculty member.
Right.
I know can't believe that, huh?
Yes.
It's 50 years this month that I came here. By the way, folks, that's September of 2024, so that's 50 years.
50 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when I came here, I didn't know that I had as much of an anger. I'm competitive. I don't like people getting in my way. I like to have things work out the way they want. I want to turn on my computer and not have the blue screen or the whatever the screen of death.
We all want that.
Well, but picture writing a report at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday come Monday. I've already been in the office for 18 hours over the weekend, and I get a black screen or blue screen, whatever the heck it is.
Blue screen.
And I can't do anything. The document's gone. Do I break the computer? Or do I do another trick, which is anger turned inward? Do I suppress it? Do I sit there and grit my teeth and clench my fists? And so there's 2 forms of anger. Well, there's multiple forms, but you have all of them.
So what should I do?
Well, these are the parts of the ways you have to, when you go to anger management, we do thermometers of how hot you got over the week. You track what irritates you. You track.
Let me ask you, starting from the beginning. So I've just been sent to you. My boss has said, that's it, I've had it, you're coming, you're going.
Yep.
So I come in the door. I don't have a problem, but my boss says I have a problem. So how do you, because I need to save my job, that would be the trigger to which I would be compliant, right?
So you have to figure if people, well, Nobody. I do fitness for duty evaluations. I do return to work. I do risk assessments. And do you think those people, whether they're law enforcement officers or people that work in regular businesses, are really happy to come in for one of those?
Probably not.
Okay, so for anger management, I say, hey, I hear you've had a little problem at work, and you begin to let them know that you have to, everything we do for therapy, and I think this is worth taking a couple seconds, you have to normalize the situation for them so that they don't feel they're being, harassed or anything else. Like when we get a letter from Mark. Well, but that's saying, you all have not behaved yourselves, whether he wanted to know that or not. And people could ask us what that means, but
Right.
we know.
Yeah.
So you look at the expression of anger. If they're referred, they're going to be referred because they've done something to disrupt the environment around them, and they're being given a chance to show that they still want to be part of that environment.
Okay.
Now, there are times, had a really difficult situation where the person couldn't stay. When I began to do the list of things that we do, I looked at him and said, you really don't like the job, do you? And you don't like the people you're working with. That's not going to change. So it was a corporate, we had to make a decision. What are the factors that prompt anger? For me, disloyalty, surprises real surprises. There's a series of things that I had to learn that do that. And I'm going to give you the end of the story, and then we'll go back. Did I tell you about the sunglasses? Okay. So,
Yeah, where you lost your sunglasses.
right. So that's a seminal event that took 70 years to develop, where I realized my getting angry at losing anything
It's
doesn't
useless.
work.
Yeah.
Getting up in the morning when I said I'm going to be here on time today, which we will let people know that I'm not usually on time. I had to sit back and say, wait a minute. I'm going to get there. I'm not going to be there at 9:30. I'll be there as close to 9, and I have to say that. I'm not trying to be late. So I have to do that and give myself permission not to get irritated, annoyed,
Right.
upset. I said, and I will be suitably apologetic, blah, 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 blah. Well, I was here within 2 minutes of the time. That's pretty darn good. So remember that.
Yeah, I do. I'll write that down.
Okay, so what you have to take a look at is the anger outward? What form does it take? How predictable can it be? How aware are you about the factors that may create it? You left the house, and I'm going to take examples from everywhere. You left the house this morning, and the baby puked on you before you left. And when you got to the car, your spouse had not put the gas in the car, and you're now in traffic, and you forgot that your boss said you better be on time tomorrow. Now, if you're sitting in Canal City, where the traffic has been crappy for the past however many centuries, you think you're going to get upset? You think you're going to get irritated in some way? And there's some people that never get upset. At least we don't think they do. But I found out most of them.
See, I've not seen your temper. In all the years I've known you, which goes back into the 80s, I've seen you, I've seen you know what you want, but I've never seen you blow.
Being hurt, for me, and the person I'm going to talk about now knows how much I love her. She worked for me for a long time, and one morning, she came in just before I was having a meeting of our senior staff to announce that she was leaving. And she'd been with me since she was 18 years old.
You've used her as an example before.
Yeah. And I ripped into her. I called her. I screamed at her. And I also did that to Fred Albert. Hi, Fred. I did that to him too, because he was leaving. He said he was going to stay, and he'd always wanted to be a teacher. He was working with us, and he said, nope, I'm going to give you another year. That was on Friday, and on Monday or Tuesday, he came in and said, guess what, I've got a job as a teacher. I went ape. I was really upset. I did not realize, and this is a part that everybody has to who has temper, I did not realize the reverberating effect of that kind of anger. All I was doing is being angry at him. It's dysfunctional behavior when the world around you has to suffer from your whatever you do.
Right.
Throwing things. One morning I came in, And I'm going to use the names. Maggie was my secretary, and something happened, and it was something unanticipated. So it threw me off my plan. I'm very stressed about something, and I picked up one of the red barrel pens, the ones with liquid pen, and I threw it against the wall. Oh gosh. And it splattered on my white shirt and splattered on my wall. And the part that got me to stop being upset is it splattered on a paperweight that my son had made me in first grade. The red ink.
Actions have a way of getting...
So internalized, externalized, part of your personality. People. There are some people that are just angry people, and you have to be, oh, sorry about that, jeez, spam. So you have to really begin when you have people come in and say, here's why you're here. You're not crazy, excuse me for the inappropriate term. Your boss has said that this is the behavior you do. Are you denying that happened? No. And then you begin to normalize the behavior, and then you do things so that people won't be embarrassed about the fact they're there, because a lot of people have anger problems. Mm-hmm. You haven't seen it in me. We've known each other almost 50 years. Mm-hmm. It's because I don't lose my temper that often, but when I do, I don't now at all, almost. It's disruptive, and it's hurtful for the other people around you. And physically, for you, it becomes
right.
So if you take all of that kind of unanticipated things, first you look for triggers, and then you look for patterns. So you kind of say, so you got to tell me about the event that brought you here. I came in and somebody was on my computer. So you start saying, well, and you allow people to describe how they were feeling without being judgmental. And you find out that they have a pattern. Usually it's similar kinds of things. When somebody overdraws the account, when the kid doesn't behave and you can't get angry. So you have people become, first as awareness, and then normalizing the things you can do that really do work. The old thing about counting to 10 or 20 really is one of the things before you react. If you can, and this is the part, if something hits you that you didn't anticipate and it either threatens you or upsets you acutely, the last thing you're going to do is count from 1 to 10. But you have to slowly build into people saying, wait a minute, I've got to stop this. I have the ability to stop it. The purpose of anger. Some people are motivated by being angry. It stirs them up to go, and they don't want to not be angry. So what you do is most of it's cognitive behavioral, the stuff that I sometimes make fun of. You look at the way people think and the way they behave and how they connect those kind of things. Antecedent behaviors, things that are leading up. Everyone's different. That's the part that's most important for anybody that's working. It doesn't work. For me, if you try to... I'll give you another example. I had an ethics charge filed against me years ago. Mm-hmm. And nobody wants, everybody has, if you're doing my work, you're going to tick somebody off. But I've talked to you about that. And I went out to dinner that night with a group of people. We usually had dinner, and they started trying to placate me. The more they placated, the angrier I got. Yeah. Because I was saying, oh, don't worry, it's going to be okay. And in my head, I'm saying, you don't understand. This could ruin my life. Now, we have a thing called catastrophizing. People that take a itty bitty thing.
I do that.
Okay, and so what happens with people that catastrophize, other people are sitting on the outside, or people are looking at you because they care about you, and just the people you need, you alienate. So one of the problems with anger, you alienate and you push people away. Mm-hmm. So my job, when I used to do anger management stuff, is to show people what the impact of their behavior was on other people. Now, sometimes they come in and they're ticked off just being with me, and I used to have to absorb some of that. And I used to sit, and it didn't bother me.
Do you find the majority of times that it actually works, or do you think that they're so ingrained to it that it has to ride its course, that it's just...
What, if you have an anger episode?
No, do you find that anger management in the long run works for an individual? I guess they have to try as much as...
Yeah, it depends upon the person's willingness to take part. It's like anything, learning a new behavior. First of all, you have to accept, I'm out of shape, I told you before in the morning, and so I have to start from the beginning.
Right.
If all these things that we have that irritate us, it can be financial, it can be interpersonal, It can be political. It can be anything. Why do people get into fights at football games, like college football games? They get angry about WVU losing. Has nothing to do with them. So what I have to work on, which is the most dangerous territory, is taking somebody who's fanatical about something, and this can be all the stuff we talk about, any kind of belief system, that somebody challenges or makes fun of it, and you talk about being rational. Parent-child conflicts, when you try to calm a parent down, because there used to be a big deal at one of the schools here when the young ladies would go to school and they'd have their skirts that were down below their knees, and by the time they got to school, they'd wrap, and the parents found out about it and got angry.
Right.
So we have all that. People violating rules. There are people that are rule followers. I tend to be about a 50% rule follower. The important.
I'm pretty good at a rule.
But on the road, there have been people that have criticized the way I used to drive.
Oh, I've had that. Yes.
Yeah, my 90 miles an hour.
Yes.
And
yes.
they wouldn't let kids ride with me.
Yes. Yeah. I had to give that up.
Yeah. Well, I can't do now.
Yeah.
25, I get nervous.
Yeah. Age kind of has a way of tempering it.
So, doing anger management is, if someone comes in and if they know they have or they've been referred, it is possible. Now, no one that I know will always be able to avoid having an episode. So what we teach is, here's the ways to look at this. And my awareness with the sunglasses thing was so amazing to me. It was amazing. That I didn't need to be angry. I wasn't going to bring things back. When I see something happen that I don't like in the professional world, where people, especially watching people on television who are stupid.
Yeah.
I used to get angry because they were saying things that are so stupid or not right about mental health, for instance, that I'd get Janet said, calm down. This is not your fight. Now hear that, calm down, it's not your fight. So the causes that I've done, advocating for my profession, for parity. So think about people that threaten the predictability of your life, no matter who you are, who impose a threat that is unexpected, a traffic stop or whatever else, or they steal from you, or. So I tried to make a list of things last time after I was here that I've seen that trigger people. And it's from a paper cut, literally. Somebody cut their finger with a paper cut, and a boss came in and said, what are you doing? And the person said, I'm trying not to bleed all over from a paper cut. And the boss said, in a harsh term, clean it up. And this person just started throwing things in his cubicle. Well, you sit down with him. I said, what the dickens was that about? He was sent to me, and I said, he goes, so my parents used to treat me. So we have dynamics, secrets that people, abuse that has occurred in their lives. So you have to see what the origin is. But we can start with the simple stuff. Will they do the exercises? Will they use the thermometer of anger? I don't know, a scale of 1 to 10 today, how upset and stressed did you feel? And if they do that, they understand.
Your thermometer is a scale of what, 1 to 10?
1 to 10, 1 to 100, doesn't matter.
Okay.
But if the person's been having regular kinds of episodes, and it's a change off baseline, they weren't before, we look at it differently than if they've tell me that they've always had a temper, that they've always got upset. That's part, the ones that come in, that's just the way I am. I said, fine. So my response used to be, so are you going to apply for unemployment tomorrow? And I had to come back with a response that was equally as stupid when he said, I'm not going to change. I says, well, who's going to change? Well, I don't need to change. It only happens twice a year at work. So the people are doing that. There are exercises. There's breathing.
Right.
And this is a really interesting thing, is becoming aware of the level of stress you're feeling in your body each day. Being aware that when you don't sleep well or you don't eat well, you know that you may have a certain kind of reaction. And we even take it out of the anger thing. How do you respond when you don't sleep? How do you respond when there's not enough money in the bank? And sometimes we just have to say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how upset are you? And
right.
some people aren't even aware. So you walk it through, you show the thing that I like to do is say to them, let's take the event that you've just had and take it out so we're not going to have you defend yourself. When you get angry like that, how do you feel? And people, what do you mean, how do I feel? I'm angry. He says, all right, let's talk about what that means. How do you behave when you're angry? So there's the cognitive, your thinking, and the behavioral. And he says, well, what do you think the people around you are thinking? I don't have a number, but it's high. A high percentage says, I never even thought of that part. I use the example of the cigar boats or whatever those are, the ones that run up and down the river. For the hear that, and it's coming up, and you're on a pontoon boat. And this is a common occurrence on the river. So you hear it coming, and you go, oh, Lord. And there's the guy with the buff chest, and he's waving, and he goes by you, and the wake rocks the pontoon boat. And goes up, and about half hour later, you hear, and it's coming back the other way. And he's waving. You're going like this. He thinks you're saying hi. So there's we have to use that. And then he rides by. And then you come in the dock, and there's his boat next to you. He's sitting there waving. You want a drink? And you want to go and rip his throat out because he disrupted and somebody got punched on that thing.
But the first thought I had was I would want to tell him what he did,
Yeah.
and explain to him. My concern would be, why would I want to rip his throat out? Now, there's a reason that I would be triggered. I mean, there's more to this than that boat.
But it's the irritability. It's the lack of. It's on the river. There's supposed to be this kind of decorum and rule following, and when this guy comes by it, going at X amount of thing, and creates that kind of wake.
So he needs to know.
And you say something to him, and he laughs at you.
Oh, well, that's a whole new ballgame.
Or he says, no big deal. So you have to. Why I want to just do the management thing is that if you have ever had problems with anger, it's destructive to you physically. It's destructive to you emotionally. And if you're holder-inner, you're likely to blow in different. You drink. A lot of my folks who came in with anger management stuff had drinking problems.
Ooh.
Not drug problems, drinking problems. They drink to get the anger down when they come home, ticked off at their supervisor. Which
brings me an age. Is there an age, or is it cover the whole?
It's dependent. If you the other thing I forgot is modeling.
Taking after your parent, taking after.
Yeah. If you've got parents who have been angry, how do they handle stressful situations? What did you learn? And you don't mean to be angry. Some people who have been in kind of dysfunctional families like that become even less likely to have an external expression of anger. They turn it inward. They drink. They overeat.
Or they work hard to avoid it.
Yeah, in the conflict avoidant people who should be asserting themselves, so we teach assertive behaviors, we teach apologetic, I don't want to say apologetic, but you teach people that if you do manifest inappropriate outburst of anger, what can you do to rectify it? I've said it publicly, the day that I got angry at the young lady in my office was the day I had to begin to shut my practice down. The big practice I had. I still get upset. Doesn't mean you can't get upset. Doesn't mean you can't.
Oh, you're always going to react to something.
But so it's this outward or inward manifestation of some form of destructive expression of that anger. When you hold it in, if you have cardiovascular disease, if you have GI problems, you're likely to exacerbate them. If you work in a high stress situation, I started off earlier, but when I first came to Charleston, I got called in on weekends because physicians would throw scalpels in the OR. And the head of personnel from the hospital would say, hi. He'd call me up and I said, this is not good, is it? And he says, no, got to come in. And I used to have to deal with surgeons that would throw scalpels, or I'd do consulting with teams.
Yeah, that was Mission Impossible.
No, depending on who it was.
Yeah.
And the hard part with some of the people that I dealt with were the professionals. They were so embarrassed they got angry. So I had to deal with the reaction they had to being told that they had to come in.
Right.
And they were either afraid of something. I had one person that was, that something happened to him and found out that he had had a head injury that he had not told anybody about. And he was having some trouble, and it affected the way he was doing his exams, and he made some mistakes. And he got angry when he was confronted. And there were problems. And so we investigate if there's something actually problematic. If you get hit here, closed head injury, prefrontal cortex, screws you up big time. Big time. Your disinhibition, you become disinhibited. You do not have control over your emotions as much as you do. The stuff that's coming from your midbrain up to your forebrain, it's broken. So anger management, sometimes if we're doing it, we have to actually say, I have to call a neurologist and say, hi, I think we got a problem here. He had a closed head injury. Can you use anything on x-ray, CAT scan, MRI? We just used to have brain scans, and now we have all this fancy crap. But we can find it. So if you've got an injury to your prefrontal cortex or other parts of your brain, it may impact your impulse control and your aggression. We have scales on all of our tests for aggression, activation, disinhibition, and we look for those characterological things that may be psychological in base too.
So if I'm having anger issues, it wouldn't hurt me to tell my physician that I'm having anger issues.
It wouldn't hurt, or understand, and I guess this is the part that's so difficult for people.
With 2 minutes left.
When you come to a mental health professional, it doesn't always mean you have a psychological disorder. You have a behavioral problem that needs for you to learn some new behaviors. If you make the choice to not have this kind of corrective action be taken on you for the rest of your life. You can make choices. Leave the place you're working. Learn new behaviors. Recognize that your jokes, this is a big one, your jokes about that it used to be okay, misogynistic, sexually oriented jokes, you can't do it anymore, and people get upset with you, and they will now sue for a hostile work environment. Now, there's a whole other bunch of things, but you get angry. Well, I've always been this way. Why should I have to change?
Or if you're older, what do you mean I can't tell this? I always have. I've always done this. That's always
and so, but when you say that, you're not angry. I mean, you're bewildered and you're upset, internalizing, saying, why should I have to change, or I don't want to change, or I feel I'm being picked on. But the people that you're delivering the message to may be upset, and so we're having to be much more sensitive to what other people hear when we say. I was told a positive thing about the perception that was had of me in the court system, and I was stunned because I was reacting to what I thought was going on at times, and I was getting angry about things that I didn't need to be angry about. So the message is personalized, get somebody that knows what they're doing, recognize it can be bio, psycho, social, or a combination thereof.
Be aware of your anger issues. Just be aware. On behalf of Dr. Clayman, I'm Sharon King, thanking you for watching the Library Television Network. Till next time, bye-bye.